As an individual, secondly, I look at, we have to take education back from the federal government. As I said, I'm a strong constitutionalist, and underneath the Constitution, and specifically through the 10th Amendment, what it basically says there, any rights not specifically given to the federal government are retained by the states and the people. You will find nothing in our United States Constitution that says the word education is the right of the federal government. In fact, until the Carter administration of the late 70s, we did not even have a federal government of education, and so, or federal Department of Education. I submit to you, in my ideal world, that one day we see the abolishment of the federal Department of Education. Roughly, they have a budget of about $200 billion. Imagine what all 50 states could do with that share of the money. In fact, I would probably give Mr. Obama a deal. I'd say take $100 billion of that, apply it to our national debt, and give the rest of it, which is rightfully ours because it is our tax money that is funding that operation up there. Let us do what we can do best, down here. What people are doing in other states is fine, but we need to bring that money back into our state. We need to let our local communities do a better job of addressing the needs that they have. What your needs over here in Lee County and in this area perhaps are different than mine and over in the Irwin County area and definitely in the metro area. And so we need to have that flexibility. Let adults do what they do and make budgets. Let them plan. Let them be, definitely we want them to be accountable, but give them the tools and the flexibility they need to address that. And that's where I submit to you that looking at our local spending, and especially the way we look at how we fund education, I'm more of a block grant individual. Let's give our local school systems, the money they have, let them sit down and prepare a budget, spend that money directly where they need to go. One of the things we look at in education, and even in Georgia, we roughly, our state budget, roughly 57% of that is education. And I submit to you, if we cannot do what we need to do with 57% of the budget, something is wrong. I'm not an individual that wants to increase our spending in education, but allow us to allocate that money appropriately. I think it's more of an allocation problem than it is a finance problem in our state. And so hopefully we can do some things that will address that more efficiently. But the big thing is, yes, we need to make sure that we take our right back to govern education. Things such as maybe you've heard of the Race to the Top bill, which again, this is government money, stimulus money that is, they're offering and dangling in front of us down here at the state. And then if we take it, all the strings that come with it. Like I said, and we cannot allow, our state to be enslaved to the federal government on this level. We have to break our dependency on federal money. And that's one of the issues we do have. We are so dependent on that, but I believe that if we look at our budget, hopefully one of the things we can do is we can say no to the federal government. Again, as your next state school superintendent, I assure you, I will not be up there accepting money from the federal government. I will not do that. I will work on looking at, I think we roughly get roughly 3 to 5% of our funds from there. I want to look at that and see if can we line out of this, reduce our dependency there. That way we do not have to adhere to anything such as No Child Left Behind, the regulations that come with it. A lot of these regulations that come down from the federal government, what they do is they give you about 2 years of grant and money, and then after that, basically it's pulled. And so that means all the people in their jobs that have been out there now are without a job. And what that means is they want to keep it. Your local school systems are the ones that have to fund it. And so we've got to do a better job with that. And finally, as I kind of close on this, one of the things I look at is as an educator, and even as I went into administration, when I told my wife, who again is a teacher as well, she's been teaching first grade for 26 years now. I told her, and what she requested of me, says, never forget what it's like to be a classroom teacher. And again, as an administrator over these 8 years, I've made that my promise to my staff members that I would never ever forget what it was like to be a classroom teacher. Because what I know and what I understand and what I believe beyond a shadow of a doubt is the greatest impact that we're going to have in education, that we as educators can have, is going to take place in the classroom and not the boardroom. And so what we have to do is that we have to unleash the power that these teachers contain. We have to allow them to close their doors and teach. And that means we need to take the regulation off, we need to take the bureaucracy off, and we need to address that. We need to let them become student-driven instead of test-driven. We are so test-driven in our state right now that it basically dictates everything we do. It's not so much that we're concerned about the education of the child, but are we meeting the goals that are based on a test? And the tests that we have really do not do anything to really support education or to ensure that our children are learning. Basically, at the end of the year, you take a battery of tests, you look at it, you look at the scores, it's kind of what I call our testing autopsy report. And at that point, we look, okay, this child didn't live, why didn't he live? And then we move on to the next year. And that means the next year, instead of trying to catch that kid up and get him where he needs to be, these other teachers are worried about their standards that they have to teach. So our children are getting further and further behind. So we have to address that. We have a curriculum that is unattainable. We talked with a couple of individuals, I think Dr. Max Thompson, Dr. Heidi Hayes Jacobs. Even with our revisions, with this curriculum, it is estimated that it would take a child roughly 17 years just to go through our curriculum. Well, if you know anything about your children, your grandchildren, they're only in school for 13. So there's a displacement there. We are asking them to learn so much without making sure they are mastering anything. So I submit to you that we really have a jack of all trades student, master of none, that's coming out of our school systems. And so we have to address that. Again, like I said, it is a great pleasure to come to Lee County. I have some cards. I would love to make sure that you have one before you leave today. My website is woodsforgeorgiaed.com. We are getting hits all across the state. Of course, I joke with some individuals. I say that our campaign has actually gone international. We have people from different countries looking at it, but that's fine. Hopefully, they can learn what works in Georgia education and transfer that over. But I need your support. And this has been a tough race. We recently got a great endorsement from an individual, Roger Hines, who was one of my opponents. But he is in the metro area, and so as an individual, I'm glad to call a friend. But he has come out in his support. But I still have two individuals that I have to overcome. One is the sitting incumbent. Again, she's running for a third term. As your next state school superintendent, what I do pledge, if I can't get it done in 2, I won't be asking for 3. Okay, that's my promise to you as an individual. And because we've got to work and we've got to get our kids moving up where they need to be. I'm in this race because I disagree with where we are heading. Because what I know, if we keep doing what we've been doing, we're going to keep getting what we've been getting in Georgia education. And as an educator, I'm telling you that is unacceptable. And 3 things you can do for me, what I call the 3 Ps. Definitely pray for me. I need your prayers. I need your wisdom. Ask for wisdom. So that I can make the right decisions. Make sure that I'm doing the very best. Because this is a very weighty decision office here. Because it affects so many people, so many children. And it's not just them for for 12 years or 13 years, but it has an impact for the rest of their life. So that's very, very important. And like I said, in the decisions I make, I want to make sure they're the very best for our children. And so that's what you can do. Also, your participation. Your participation, basically word of mouth. Tell your friends about my campaign. Tell them not stop there, but tell their friends. That means with church members. That means with your fellow school members. Individuals that we've got to get the word out. Time is very short, but we are getting the word out, but I need your help in that area as well. Again, lastly, of course, as a good, anybody who's in the running for political office, is your paycheck. Again, not asking for an entire paycheck, but if you have, at least some funds that you can throw this to, support this campaign, I would greatly appreciate it. It is something that running a statewide election, I've found out Georgia's quite big, and it gets real big when you're down here in the southern part of the state and have to travel up to the northern part. But it has been a pleasure, but it has been a sacrifice that was well worth it. And I hope that come November, that when I come back and stand before you, it will be not as candidate Richard Woods, but it will be as your next state school superintendent. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.